Welcome back to week 2 discussion. In the previous video, we talked about boiling points of alkanes, and then I told you at that time we'll do a separate video on melting point because it's like fish and chips, okay? When you talk about boiling point, you got to talk about melting point. All right? Melting point kind of has a contrasting behavior. There are, however, exceptions to it, and we may not get too far into the exceptions in this class. Okay, so melting point of alkanes. Melting point of alkanes. Okay, and we will later compare melting points of alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes. I think I introduced those terms to you, but I did not talk about alkenes and alkynes yet. Okay, so let's write some sample compounds. Okay, and then write a few trends. Okay, first, okay, let's write two compounds. Okay, let's write this. This is a condensed structure of C3H8, right? And then let's write a condensed structure of CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3. Okay, this is C4H10, right? Okay, let's write one more. CH3, CH2, 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 and CH3. This would be C5H12. Okay, so we have three different alkanes, and each of them have one carbon more than the other, right? So I'm going to call this compound 1, it's going to call it compound 2, and it's going to call this compound 3. Okay, the general rule of thumb is, okay, as number of carbons, okay, carbons increase, okay, in an alkane, come back and fix this. In an alkane, okay, the melting point, okay, the melting point increases. Okay, what does it mean by melting point increases? Now, as I said earlier, okay, chemists do everything opposite to the rest of the world, right? Well, when you think melting point increases, okay, you're going from say minus 100 degrees C to, melting points are typically denoted in negative scale, say to minus 20 degrees. Okay, that's what we mean by melting point increases. That means your number becomes less negative. When you say melting point decreases, that means your number would go up. So this is increases. Okay, melting point increases. Say if you've gone from minus 20 degrees to minus 100 degrees, then we say melting point decreases. Okay, I guess they were thinking it more visually than what people use in their daily life. When you say melting point decreases, means you're going to more and more freezing temperatures. Okay, when you say melting point increases, means you're getting closer and closer to the warmer or hotter scale. Does that make sense? Because I don't want you to confuse this to how you use increases and decreases in your daily life. Okay, so coming back to our statement here, okay, as I said, the number of carbons increases in an alkane, the melting point increases, right? And I think I said quite the opposite for our boiling point, where I said the number of carbons increases in an alkane, the boiling point decreases, and in a melting point it increases, right? So which one would have the highest melting point of the three? It'll be 3 would have the highest melting point, 2 would have the second highest melting point, and 1 would have the least of the 3. Okay, now let me come back and recapture this, because increases and decreases are slightly used in a different context in chemistry than it is used in our everyday life. Okay, melting point increases means you're increasing the chances of melting something. And how do you melt something? Okay, you take an ice cube that's in the freezer, you set it on top of a table. Okay, the room is at room temperature, which is not cold as your freezer, so the ice is starting to melt. Okay, so melting point increases, the chances of it melting increases. Okay, if you take it from, say, a freezer that's at -3 degrees Celsius and you put it in a freezer that's -100 degrees Celsius, I mean, you are going to make the ice that's already ice into more ice. Okay, so you're decreasing its chances of melting. And that's what we mean by melting point decreases. Okay, but the rule of thumb here is, as the number of carbons increase in an alkane, the melting point increases. Okay, I'm going to come back with another video with a variation of what we just talked about for melting point of alkanes. Okay, stay tuned.